so forth, and shows which produce some kind of... the 7 o'clock spot is supposed to be informational, and it's supposed to be educational, kind of knowledge to people. And you can do that in a very dramatic way.
Lorne Greene was known to millions of people around the world as the wise and calm father figure from the famous television show Bonanza. On screen he appeared gentle, steady, patient, and almost impossible to anger. Many fans believed he carried this peaceful nature into real life too. But behind the smile, behind the soft voice and the strong presence, there were moments that left deep marks on him. There were events that shaped how he saw the entertainment world, how he saw fame, and how he saw certain people around him. While Greene was never a man who liked to speak badly of others, there were times when even he could not hide the pain and frustration that had been quietly building inside him. Over time, some situations grew so emotionally heavy that Greene reportedly felt betrayed, misunderstood, and pushed into conflicts he never wanted. One of the biggest problems he faced came from something he did not create. It was the famous shift in Hollywood during the 1960s, the years when television began to rise while big cinema was trying to hold on to its power. This shift created a kind of invisible tension between film actors and television actors. And unfortunately, Lorne Greene's name became tied to this tension even when he never wanted to start any trouble. The story began slowly, almost quietly, before growing louder and louder in newspapers, magazines, and television interviews. Greene became a symbol of the new era of TV westerns at the same time others, like John Wayne, became the symbol of the old guard of classic Hollywood films. John Wayne was a huge star, someone who had dominated western movies for decades. His strong image, deep voice, and bold characters made him one of the most recognizable American actors of all time. Greene respected Wayne's success, but he never expected their names to be publicly compared, contrasted, and used to create unnecessary drama between them. The moment that changed everything happened on April 14, 1966, during a crowded press conference at the Beverly Hills Hotel. John Wayne was there to promote his new movie El Dorado, and the room was packed with reporters who wanted a headline. One reporter asked a simple question: "Do you think the rise of TV westerns is hurting traditional film westerns?" Wayne answered honestly from his point of view. He said that TV westerns were watering down the strength of the classic western genre. He did not mention Bonanza. He did not mention Lorne Greene. But within a few hours, newspaper headlines across the country twisted his answer into something far more dramatic. Articles appeared with titles like, "John Wayne Attacks TV Westerns," and many of them specifically pointed at Bonanza because it was the biggest show on television at the time. To make things even worse, some newspapers printed Wayne's comments right next to pictures of Lorne Greene, making it seem as if Wayne was criticizing Greene personally. When Greene arrived at Paramount Stage 10 early the next morning and read those articles, he was completely stunned. According to people who were there, Greene threw the newspaper onto his table with a loud thump, not because he hated Wayne, but because he knew he was about to be pulled into a fight he never wanted. He knew how the media worked. He knew they loved drama. And he knew they would not let this story go quickly. As expected, within 3 days, NBC received more than 200 letters from viewers demanding that Greene stand up for television and publicly respond to John Wayne. Greene was shocked that fans wanted him to speak angrily about someone he barely knew. He did not view Wayne as an enemy. He did not view himself as part of a battle between film and television. In fact, Greene often said privately that he respected anyone who worked hard in the industry, even if they came from a different era or style. But the public pressure was intense. The cast of Bonanza had to pause shooting and hold internal meetings just to figure out how to deal with the media storm. Greene felt uncomfortable being placed at the center of a debate he never agreed to join. Things became even more stressful in August 1967 when a Chicago Tribune article claimed Greene and Wayne were seen at a fundraising event in Palm Springs and that they stood near each other in a cold and tense atmosphere. There were no photos, no recordings, not even reliable witnesses, but the story spread anyway. Other newspapers repeated it, television stations mentioned it briefly, and radio hosts joked about the supposed silent standoff between the two stars. Once again, Greene felt trapped in a false narrative. According to people close to him, he began to feel as though every small move he made was watched by reporters who were desperately hoping for more drama. Greene did not hate Wayne. He hated the way their names kept getting pulled into stories that were exaggerated or completely invented. And yet, the problem did not stop. In February 1971, Playboy published a long interview with John Wayne. During the interview, Wayne expressed strong political and cultural opinions that stirred arguments nationwide. Even though Wayne never mentioned Greene or Bonanza, magazines like New York Magazine and the Chicago Sun-Times used Wayne's bold comments as an excuse to create comparisons again. They framed Wayne as the symbol of the real West, and Greene as the symbol of the soft, clean TV West. These comparisons upset Greene. He had always seen acting as a form of storytelling, not a competition. He wanted no part of the conflict. By March 12, 1971, Greene became so tired of the endless comparisons that he reportedly asked his assistant to filter out any article that mentioned Wayne's name so he would not even see it. But the deeper reason behind Greene's discomfort came from his past. Before becoming a Hollywood actor, Greene served as a radio announcer during World War II. Every day he had to read casualty reports to families who were desperate for news about their loved ones. This left a permanent mark on him. It taught him the pain of real war, real loss, and real sacrifice. So when the media constantly promoted Wayne as a symbol of warrior spirit, even though Wayne had not served in the war, Greene felt uneasy. He did not condemn Wayne for not serving, but Greene believed true heroism should be tied to real actions, not movie roles. This private belief made the constant comparisons between them even more uncomfortable. Greene felt the media had created two characters, the strong cowboy and the gentle TV father, and forced him and Wayne into those roles, even if it did not reflect who they really were. And just when Greene thought the worst of the media pressure was ending, something new appeared on the horizon, something that made him feel even more pushed aside. A younger actor from Italy, Clint Eastwood, was becoming the face of a whole new kind of Western, one that was darker, rougher, and far less traditional. Greene could feel the industry changing, and for the first time, he felt old. He felt like the world he had worked so hard to build was slowly slipping away. The rise of Clint Eastwood during the late 1960s and early 1970s marked a dramatic shift in how audiences viewed Western heroes. While Lorne Greene and John Wayne came from generations that highlighted honor, courage, and family in Western stories, Clint Eastwood brought something new, something the world had not seen before. His characters were quiet, sharp-eyed, unpredictable, and sometimes morally gray. This style was born in the Italian spaghetti westerns created by director Sergio Leone. These films, like A Fistful of Dollars, For a Few Dollars More, and The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly, became surprisingly popular in the United States. At first, Hollywood did not take them seriously. But audiences loved them. And soon, this new wave of Western storytelling began to overshadow the classic American style. Lorne Greene had built his entire career on storytelling that focused on family values, emotional depth, and traditional Western morals. He believed a Western could teach lessons about responsibility, loyalty, and kindness. But Eastwood's films were different. They were gritty. They were violent. They painted the Old West as a place of danger, where the line between good and evil was not always clear. Greene once reportedly said privately to colleagues that he feared this new style would erase decades of classic Western storytelling. He believed audiences might forget the importance of character-driven stories and fall in love only with action and shock value. This fear grew stronger each year as Eastwood's movies gained more success. By 1968, Lorne Greene noticed the ratings for Bonanza slowly dropping. It was still a top show, but the change in audience taste was obvious. Younger viewers were drawn to darker portrayals of Western heroes, and Eastwood became the symbol of that new direction. The more popular Eastwood became, the more the media began comparing him to Greene the same way they once compared Greene to Wayne. Once again, Greene found himself trapped in another false rivalry. Newspapers printed headlines like, Old West versus New West, Family Cowboy versus Lone Gunslinger, and Lorne Greene's era ending. Greene disliked all of this. He never saw himself as Eastwood's competitor. To him, Eastwood was simply another actor doing his job. But the media loved drama more than truth, and they continued pushing the idea that Greene represented an outdated version of Hollywood while Eastwood represented the exciting new future. During interviews, Greene was often asked how he felt about Eastwood's rise. Greene usually gave polite, thoughtful answers. He said there was room for many types of westerns and that every generation brought something new. But co-workers noticed a sadness behind his calm smile. Greene cared deeply about the craft of acting and the emotional strength of storytelling. He feared that the new style of westerns, filled with violence and revenge, would overshadow the lessons he believed were most important. One actor from Bonanza later claimed in an interview that Greene once said, "I'm not afraid of Clint. I'm afraid of the world forgetting what the western once stood for." As Eastwood's fame grew, Bonanza began facing more pressure to keep up with newer TV shows. Writers attempted to bring in new characters, new storylines, and new themes to hold on to younger audiences. But Greene believed this hurt the heart of the show. In private meetings, he often argued that Bonanza should stay true to its roots, family, honor, and emotional lessons. He felt the show should not try to copy the darker styles of new westerns. Unfortunately, the network didn't always agree. They wanted higher ratings, and they pushed the show in directions Greene disliked. This added another layer of frustration for him. It felt like everything was changing too fast: audiences, story styles, expectations, and the Hollywood landscape. Meanwhile, John Wayne also faced pressure from Eastwood's rising fame. Wayne reportedly disliked the new spaghetti westerns and once said they were too violent and lacked moral balance. Wayne even attempted to bring back traditional Western values in his later films, but audiences kept moving toward the darker, more unpredictable characters played by Eastwood. Some magazines even published headlines like, "Clint Eastwood replaces John Wayne," which added fuel to the ongoing media drama that Greene was involuntarily swept into. Greene felt trapped in the middle of two eras, the fading era of traditional Westerns and the new era of gritty, darker storytelling. He respected Wayne for what he had accomplished and respected Eastwood for his talent, but he hated the constant comparisons and the pressure that came with them. What hurt Greene the most was the fear that the values he cared about, kindness, clarity, responsibility, empathy, were becoming less important in the stories people wanted. He worried that westerns would lose their moral core and become only about violence and shock. By the early 1970s, Greene's exhaustion with Hollywood's changing landscape had grown deep. He felt stuck between two worlds that did not fully understand him. The media still enjoyed pushing the idea that Greene somehow hated John Wayne or that he felt threatened by Clint Eastwood. In truth, Greene did not hate either of them. What he hated was the media's obsession with conflict. He hated the pressure put on him by forces outside his control. He hated being used as a tool to create controversy. And most of all, he hated the dishonesty that shaped so many stories about him. Greene was a man who valued calmness, patience, and respect. He believed in solving problems with conversation, not arguments. But the media's ongoing stories about rivalries made him feel as if he was being pulled into battles that were not his own. Every time he tried to step back, another article or rumor would drag him back in. The constant pressure slowly wore him down. It was not anger that he carried. It was disappointment, exhaustion, and a sense of betrayal from an industry he had given his whole life to. As years went on, Lorne Greene continued working in television, but the emotional weight from the earlier media conflict stayed with him. Even though he kept a calm face in public, many people close to him said he never forgot how the newspapers twisted his words, used his image without his permission, and turned his name into a symbol for arguments he never wanted to join. Greene often spoke about the importance of truth in storytelling, and this made it even harder for him to accept how easily the media turned truth into fiction. He had spent decades building a career based on sincerity, kindness, and a strong moral presence. He wanted to inspire people, not divide them. So when reporters exaggerated the idea that he hated John Wayne or felt threatened by Clint Eastwood, it went against everything he believed in. Greene understood that the entertainment world could be tough, but he did not expect to be used as a tool for drama. He had always tried to stay out of conflicts, and yet he became part of two of the biggest Hollywood storylines of his time, the supposed rivalry with John Wayne and the generational shift brought by Clint Eastwood. In private, Greene reportedly said several times that he felt the media created problems just to sell stories. He believed that once the media built a narrative, they kept feeding it even if it wasn't true. Greene's frustration grew not because of Wayne or Eastwood, but because of the constant pressure placed on him to react, respond, or defend himself. Every time a new article came out, people expected Greene to comment. But Greene did not want to add fuel to the fire. He believed silence was a form of strength. Still, he felt the weight of every false headline. At times he wondered whether the audience truly understood who he was, or if they only saw the version the media created. Greene was a thoughtful man, and he often reflected on his journey. He knew he had lived through a major transition in Hollywood history, one that shifted the Western genre forever. He understood that change was natural, but he wished it had happened with more respect and less unnecessary tension. He wished the rise of television westerns could have been celebrated without dragging John Wayne into criticism he never intended. He wished Clint Eastwood's success could have been embraced without suggesting that Greene was outdated. But most of all, he wished the entertainment world had more honesty. Greene's friends would occasionally recall that he carried a sense of sadness whenever the topic of media manipulation came up. It wasn't that he held grudges, he wasn't that type of man. It was that he felt the public was denied the truth. He believed the real story, that he respected both Wayne and Eastwood, was more meaningful than the fake rivalry the media pushed. Greene may have felt betrayed by the industry, but he never let it destroy his passion for performing. He continued to act, narrate, and connect with audiences through his calm and steady presence. But privately, he kept his distance from reporters. Once, during the late 1970s, he was asked in an interview if he ever hated anyone in Hollywood. Greene paused, smiled gently, and gave a simple answer: "I don't hate people. I hate situations." That single sentence captured everything he had learned from the intense media conflicts of the 1960s and 1970s. Greene did not hate John Wayne. He did not hate Clint Eastwood. He did not hate the younger actors who rose after him. What he hated was being pushed into a world of pretend hostility. He hated how the media valued conflict over truth. And he hated how easily a peaceful man like himself could be turned into the center of a story built on misunderstanding. In his final years, Greene seemed to accept that the media would always twist stories. But he also knew something important: people who watched Bonanza loved him for the values he represented. They admired his patience, his steady wisdom, and his strong sense of fairness. In real life, Lorne Greene was very much like his character: calm, dignified, gentle, and driven by a desire to help others. That was the truth he wanted to leave behind. And while he may have carried frustration deep inside, he chose not to let it define him. Even if he felt betrayed by the industry at times, he chose to focus on the good he brought to millions of viewers. He chose to remember the love of the fans rather than the noise of the headlines. In the end, Greene's legacy was not shaped by rivalry, anger, or hate. It was shaped by his kindness, his professionalism, and his belief that storytelling should lift people up rather than tear them apart. And that is why, even though the media tried to create conflict, Greene's true character still shines brighter than any rumor. His life reminds us that sometimes the greatest strength is not in fighting back, but in staying true to who you are, even when others try to write your story for you. Lorne Greene was known all over the world as the calm, strong, and wise father figure from the famous TV show Bonanza. Millions of people loved him because he always looked peaceful, gentle, and confident on screen. But behind that friendly smile was a man who faced many struggles, disappointments, and painful betrayals throughout his long career in Hollywood. Even though he almost never complained in public, people close to him knew that he carried a deep sense of sadness and frustration that he rarely expressed. For many years, he kept these feelings hidden, trying to stay professional, thoughtful, and respectful, just like his character Ben Cartwright. But a private tape recording, which reportedly surfaced for only a few hours before disappearing from the internet, revealed a side of Lorne Greene that shocked everyone who heard it. On that tape, Greene's voice was different. He sounded tired, hurt, and deeply emotional. He said something that instantly caught people's attention: "I was betrayed, a betrayal so deep that even now, I feel the knife still in my back." These words did not sound like the calm and confident actor everyone knew. They sounded like the confession of a man who had been pushed, attacked, and overlooked by people he trusted. According to those who listened to the mysterious tape, Greene spoke about several people who had caused him distress during his career. Some were actors he had worked with. Some were filmmakers who used him but never supported him. Others were people he considered friends, but who later hurt him for money, fame, or personal gain. Greene explained that these betrayals did not come from strangers. They came from people he welcomed into his life, from people he helped, from people he protected, and from people he believed would stand by him. Instead, many of them used his name, his image, or his reputation for their own benefit, leaving him to face the consequences alone. Greene's tape reportedly revealed that one of the most stressful periods of his life came during the 1960s, when the entertainment world was going through a huge transformation. Hollywood films were losing their old power, and television was becoming the new dominant force. Greene became the face of this massive change because Bonanza was one of the biggest shows on TV. But instead of being honored for this achievement, he became the target of media drama, comparisons, and controversies that he never wanted to be part of. This problem became especially painful when Greene's name was linked to John Wayne, one of the biggest film stars of all time. The conflict between the two men did not start because they disliked each other. In fact, they almost never interacted. But the media wanted a dramatic story, and they created one by exaggerating John Wayne's comments about TV westerns. On April 14, 1966, at a press conference for his new movie El Dorado, John Wayne was asked whether TV westerns were hurting the value of film westerns. Wayne gave an honest answer, saying that television made westerns less powerful because they were produced quickly and cheaply. He never mentioned Lorne Greene or Bonanza. But within hours, newspapers across the country twisted Wayne's words and made it seem like he was attacking Greene's show directly. Headlines claimed that Wayne said Bonanza was weak, soft, or poorly made. Greene saw these headlines early in the morning on April 17, 1966, while he was in his dressing room at Paramount Studios. According to Dan Blocker, Greene slammed the newspaper so hard that objects on the table shook and fell. It was not because he hated John Wayne. It was because he knew the media had created a